Meanwhile, the fight in the House of Commons is about prisoners today. The Conservative government wants to make prisoners pay. Meanwhile, the fight in the House of Commons is about prisoners today. The Conservative government wants to make prisoners pay, literally. The Public Safety Minister, Vic Taves, unveiled a series of measures today that will require convicted criminals to shell out more for food and for other living costs while behind bars prisoners who work. It also claws back the incentives paid to inmates who take part in these work programs. Changes are expected to save the taxpayer about $10 million a year. Let me show you the details in our hot sheet. According to the government's plan, some prisoners in higher pay grades will have to pay 30% of their income for room and board. These people make about $6.80 a day. The incentive pay for inmates who take part in Corrections Canada job training work programs will be eliminated. Inmates have to pay more for their administrative costs associated with things like telephone calls, $2 a telephone call. So what's the purpose of this? Does this changes make prisoners more accountable, or will they lead to unrest in penitentiaries? Will they hamper rehabilitation? MPs are going to weigh in on that. Candice Hoeppner is the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety. Francoise Boivin is the NDP Justice Critic, and Francis Scarpaleggia is a Liberal Public Safety Critic. Good to have all of you. You're just fresh out of your vote, and I appreciate your vote and dash mentality, which was excellent. Candice Hoeppner, these changes weren't expected. What's the reason for now charging inmates who work more and taking away some of these pays?
Well, to begin with, really the reason that we want to do this is we think it's important that offenders are accountable and responsible. We think it actually contributes to their rehabilitation, as well as, when victims are looking at inmates and the way that the different things are administered. I think it's important for victims to know that inmates are paying at least a part of their share of costs. In regards to what you referred to, the incentive pay that had been given to inmates who were part of a program called Corcan. What that is, it's a great program where inmates learn trades and skills, and there's actually a waiting list because so many inmates want to be part of that program. And so we didn't think that there had to be incentive pay to encourage inmates to be part of it. In fact, one of the incentives is that they actually are able to walk away with a skill, a very marketable skill, and when they get out of the penitentiary, when they're finished serving their time, they would be able to use that skill in the workforce. So we think that it's great that they're being trained. They are getting a small pay, a stipend for the work they're doing, but just not an incentive. And as you said, it saves about $10 million a year. So
let me just so folks understand, Correctional Services Canada already charges inmates who are at the top of the prison pay scale. Okay, so prisoners that are doing these work programs, they get paid at the top end $25 a week, and that comes out of their inmate pay or their stipend that's tied to employment in prison, just so people understand that. Now, Vic Taves said today that, the average Canadian pays 30% in tax. Why not the average prisoner to pay? So that means some of them who are already paying, let's say they get $6.80 a day, they knock $2 off for room and board, it's under $5 a day. Now 30% of that. But these people are making, if anything, way below the poverty line. So the 30% it's not really an apples to apples comparison. Is this further punishing people that already have nothing in prison? They're working and maybe they need money, I don't know, to send to their kids. I mean, why take that much money off of their tiny $5 a day?
Well, now just to clarify, I heard the numbers that you just presented. The way that it's going to work, currently inmates receive between $1 to $7 a day, depending on what they're doing. Currently, they are charged about 10 to 15% for room and board. That will be increased to a top end of about 30%. So again, it will be a sliding scale. And yes, the top end would be approximately 30%, but not on top of other charges. That 30%, which would be the top end, would be for room and board. And I mean, all of the numbers that we're looking at are small numbers. This is a stipend that's paid to inmates, obviously by the taxpayer. The taxpayer is paying the inmates room and board already fully. I mean, these small costs are not obviously covering any real costs, but what they do is help teach the offender an important lesson that all of us live by, and it's important when we're living in society that we pay some of our expenses and that we pay our debts and we pay for our costs.
But I guess the question is, is it going to breed resentment or unsafety? Francoise,
No,
Boivin, what do you think about this? Is it teaching inmates responsibility, or is it further punishing them when they've already had their punishment, which is prison?
You know what is always saddened me in any justice bills from this government or public security is that their idea of justice is more a question of a PR kind of a public relation instead of public security. Will it achieve what they're looking at achieving? I've got my doubts, my serious doubts on the matter. Of course, it looks good to do some type of a photo op today for the minister and say to the victims, listen, these guys will pay for room and board, and give an impression. But when people scratch under the surface like you did and raise the facts, the amount of money these people are making, I mean, we're talking really, really low pay grade. So to hike things up to 30%, I mean, do we want to rehabilitate? I really question this.
So do you think this will harm their rehabilitation?
Well, I wonder how it's going to be perceived, in a sense that we've got programs that are supposed to encourage inmates to try to become better citizens. Isn't it what we should be hoping to get? We want to punish them, which they are, by getting into jail. And then second of all, they have all type of other punishment that are attached to it, the stigma, what's going to happen in the future, and so on and so forth. So we try inside with some programs to instill into them how to become better citizen, how to become more productive for society. And we're saying, hey, listen, but while you're doing that, we will punish you again. And because we're taking really people who are really making, you're talking $2, $3 a day. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Francis Scarpaleggia, I mean, I guess taxpayers are saying we already pay to house inmates. Now, some of them are part of these work programs. Is this further punishment, or is this just fairness to the taxpayer? Where are you on this scale?
Well, I think this is an interesting technical question, if I may say. I mean, Francoise mentioned it could be a PR stunt. If it's a PR stunt, I don't think that's the appropriate rationale for making these kinds of changes. But we've heard at committee, at the Public Safety Committee, we've heard from experts, criminologists within the department, within Corrections Services Canada, who have told us that the motivations and the rules and the thinking of inmates is very different from you and I or people on the outside. The dynamics of accountability that seem to make sense to us and do make sense to us and produce the kind of behavior that those kinds of rules are meant to produce may work outside the system, but inside the system the dynamics are very different. So, and you're dealing with a very different psychology.
Does it not teach them Candice Hoeppner and Vic Taves said it's teaching them responsibility, and it saves taxpayers $10 million. What do you think of that?
Sorry, you're asking me this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously it's going to save taxpayers $10 million. That's a fact. What kind of atmosphere will it create within the penitentiaries? Will it make life more dangerous for the officers inside the penitentiaries? Will it encourage rehabilitation such that when these inmates go out into the community, they'll be more responsible citizens? These are the things you have to balance against the savings of money. And it's a very technical question, and I think it's the kind of thing that the Public Safety Committee should look at. And maybe if the government split up the budget bill and sent things like this to the respective committees, we might be able to get to the bottom of it.
There is a concern here, Candice Hoeppner, that inmates will resent this and maybe increase danger to guards. We spoke, CBC News spoke with a former inmate, a guy who spent 23 years in prison for various crimes. He now works with youth to prevent them from getting into prison. Here's what he had to say about the changes.
But it's not taking the inmates into account that these are human beings. These are somebody's daughters and sons. The rehabilitation is a part of it, and I don't see it in this.
There's no rehabilitation. He also said that when you take this disposable income away, the black market comes into play. And, I talked to the Elizabeth Fry Society, and they'll be on this program later. They also say, for female prisoners, they want to send, presents home to their families, maybe on Mother's Day or birth. This is going to cause resentment. What do you make of that? It hurts rehabilitation.
Well, a couple of things. I mean, the Elizabeth Fry Society, as well as the opposition, have said that they think if guards search inmates that it's state-sanctioned sexual assault. So I think that you have to look at the perspective that they're coming from. But I think for any taxpayer watching right now, we would say we're talking about inmates who have broken the law. They are living and housed and fed fully by taxpayers' dollars, and at the same time they're being trained at a skill, many of them, which is I think a very good thing, obviously, for rehabilitation. So they're going to be getting a skill. Their room and board is covered. They have quite a few things that even everyday Canadians might not have. And what we're saying right now is you're going to pay a little bit of that back. And in fact, the testimony that Francis referred to, I heard very differently. I heard from the experts that accountability was a huge part of rehabilitation, and that we needed to expect that. I don't think that we can create laws based on will the inmate like it or not.
No, but at some point in time.
Sorry, can I finish, Francis? Francoise, I think that we have to make laws that are in the best interest of taxpayers.
Indeed, yeah.
We have to make laws that will help with rehabilitating as well as helping our criminal justice system.
But you are taxing you're taxing people that are making below the poverty line at 30%.
It's a percent, and it's not. This is not a tax. This is for room and board. Most Canadians are paying that at least for their housing.
But they're
paying more than
sound that it's a Club Med. It is not a Club Med.
Well,
it is not the ideal vacation
time.
Francoise Boivin, go ahead.
I mean, that's what gets me sometimes. We all agree these people are, they have been declared criminals. They have been found guilty of an offense. They are in jail. We all say that. Nobody says otherwise. Maybe the Conservatives are sad that at some point in time these guys will have to get out of jail unless we put life in prison.
How is it a penalty to pay your expenses? How is that a penalty? I don't understand. We all pay our bills.
I mean,
why is it wrong to pay our bills? We're just asking inmates to pay a little bit of
it. I got 10 seconds. Listen, I got 10 seconds.
This is not a Club Med, and I still say if you want to go for public security, you have to make sure that the people that will get out of jail, because they will get out of jail, are going to be prepared to become good citizens. Not sure with those measures.
All right, I know the House leaders are standing by and the bells are ringing. Very quickly, Francis Scarpaleggia, this is going to happen. Just very quickly, will this increase danger in prisons or not?
Well, I don't know. I think we need to bring experts from CSC Canada to the committee to tell us what they think. I mean, the people who have been working in this area their whole careers, they know what the possible effects will be. I'd like to see if the minister took his department's advice or ignored his department's advice just so that he could pull a public relations stunt. That's what I'd like to know. All
right, last word, Candice Hoeppner. Can you respond to that?
Well, again, I just think for any average Canadian watching this, it doesn't make any sense why an inmate wouldn't pay a portion of their costs. Again, they're being housed, they're being fed, they're learning many times a trade.
But to be fair, they already are paying some, right?
But they're paying about 10%, sometimes even less than that. Canadians pay, and 10% of what they're making.
But why not 40 or 50? Why 30 now? Where do we get this number?
Well, I think that's a fair number. I mean, some Canadians pay more than that.
Public relations, not public safety.
Let's talk about the principle of accountability. Let's talk about the principle of also paying. No, there's a lot more to being in jail than just being there. There's actually lessons that can be learned, and Francoise, you talk about that. So one of the lessons we teach our children, we learn ourselves, is paying our bills, and that's what we're asking inmates to do. Pay a little bit of the bills that you're incurring.
All right, I got to pay some bills because we got to take a commercial break, and then we got the House leaders. But Candice Hoeppner, Francoise Boivin, Francis Scarpaleggia, bells are ringing. You're going to be jumping into the House, back out of the House. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We want to hear from you. What do you think about this? This is a fascinating story, and this is our ballot box question today. Should prisoners pay more for their incarceration? Remember, some pay for it through these work. I mean, taxpayers pay for it all, we understand, but should prisoners contribute more if they work? Let us know what you think. Go to the ballot box section of our Facebook page, cbc.ca/politics, or scan the QR code at the bottom of your screen. That will take you to our ballot box section. We'll talk about this on the power panel and the implications of this, but if you want to comment, go to our Facebook page. On Twitter, we're at PNP_CBC or at Evan Solomon CBC. Love to hear your reaction, and we'll post your comments in the comment box.